got time.
Okay.
This whole
Wanna
thing
earn
will
it
blow up
first.
in a minute, what?
Can we back up just a little bit?
Sure.
So, some of the participation, and it's just a list that I too kind of grabbed out of the sky and didn't go through timesheets or anything else. We've assisted with, if you remember the water main at 94 and Brotherhood? I was there with you for a better part of the night. Got called about 4:30 in the morning. Went and got you the parts at Win Water, if you remember that, right?
94 in Brotherhood?
Yes.
We spent the night together?
Yeah. Sewer line repair at Mays Field, tree truck on Clinton Drive.
Sure.
Trucks for the Decker Drive milling, which the town graciously took the road millings. I know you think you stuck me with them, but there's gonna be a parking lot out of that before it's
No,
over.
no, and that was the,
But that was 13 trucks and
that was the
manpower.
trade-off. You could take the millings
Right.
as long as you,
That was
you could have the
13
millings as
trucks
long
and
as you take-
manpower for 2 days. The dog park, the sewer main replacement at Mays Field, that was a week's worth of work for 6 guys and 3 pieces of equipment. The snow assistance, the Christmas decorations, and we did about a week last summer for Bull Road, and intending again to do another week this year, doing tree work as well there, or Tolman, I think Chris wants to move to.
it was cutting down.
Yeah,
trimming the
that was
trees.
the incident where the individual got stung by the bees, and
How is that person doing?
he's doing just fine.
I appreciate that, Wayne, and I appreciate it every time you guys come to help out. I think it's great that you.
And we're more than willing to. The only thing I've impressed upon Chris, and I think we started this dialogue back in December for the snow, was when we get it, it's easier for me to know a day or two ahead of time or have it as a steady diet that if we're gonna cover a certain volume of village roads. It's easier to plan if I know that a day or two ahead of time. Finding out sometimes the night before and sitting there watching the clock isn't really the best, you know. Wars are won in preparation, not activation.
Sometimes they don't know it's gonna snow.
Well, see how it works.
I get what
See how it works overseas.
Just not, my follow-up is not to you. My follow-up question is going to be to our 2 ward representatives, Tom and Kathy. You've been now our ward reps for, I think, 4 years, going on 4 years?
Yeah.
So, as our ward rep for the village of Washingtonville, do you feel that the village is getting approximately $1.3 million worth of services for our tax money? Do you feel confident in that? Because I, as a board member on this side, think that's ridiculous. And I think for $1.3 million, we should be getting a lot more services than dog licenses and Wayne helping out every so often. I think we should be getting a minimum more roads paved and whatnot. So again, just for you, Tom and Kathy, do you feel confident in approving these budgets for the village, taking $1.3 million and getting the services back that we're getting?
Well, for being one of those residents, and I live with it, when I sat at that dais and I asked the same questions years ago, and if you look at state law, you'll understand how it's written and what the areas of responsibility is and how everything is tiered. Every town does the same thing. Every village is doing the same thing. For what the supervisor read off is everything that is offered from the town. If you're worried about what's going on in the town, what do you think you're getting for 1.7 if you had to ask the county? You think that's fair. But you are getting services. We are doing a lot. I mean, where do you draw the line to say, listen, at the end of the day, I think you guys have said it before, you want to be your own island. You want to be your own town, you don't want anything to do with the village, or I'm sorry, with the town, and you want to be on your own, right? At the end of the day. It's been out there, it's been on Facebooks and everywhere else. But at the end of the day, you have really one choice, maybe 2. But the second one doesn't happen. Again, if you look at the laws and you understand it, is that you could be a town, but you don't have the population. There could be consolidation. That's the only way to do a merger. It doesn't go in the opposite direction. And if you look at New York State and their trends of what Albany has been driving at, they like the consolidation plans. Take a look at Nyack and the village of Nyack. They're going through it right now. It is happening out there. I'm not saying that you want to wipe out the village, but at the end of the day, I don't, you know, what's your end goal? You got to, you know, face where we are with this, and I don't know. I mean, I listened to part of this one a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking, well, are there budgetary issues within the village? First thing that I thought of, because you know, paving your roads. I'm not sure legally we have the ability to do that based upon the state laws and what, again, comes out and where it goes within our budget. We don't take it and use it for police department. We use this for those specific things. That list is what's being used. So I've done 4 budgets. I live here. I pay that incremental amount that I think was increased maybe $10 over last year per month. I'm comfortable with that. Yes, I am.
Mr. Mayor, I just need to add to what Mr. Domingo is saying. And I think Artie can validate this. Years back, the village used to actually pay the town to do the roads that we're doing now, the only help out, other than obviously Highgrove and Woodfield. But there was a list of roads, and I think that number was 30,000 already? 25,000?
I don't remember, but it was in the budget
Yeah.
back in the day.
So, and Mr. DeVinco's administration in, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s was the one who questioned that then. And then differentiated that and vetted that with the town, and that's where the separation got, that we would only come when asked. And that's where that historically was.
So this,
Just for a method understanding.
the administrations that were here before us actually paid the town to plow?
Not, well, this is like I say, in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Way before then.
Yeah, it was before that.
Before that?
Way
Because
before then.
Village
I started in
DPW at the
79.
time was only consisted of 2 trucks in 1990.
Uh-huh.
We only had 1 truck in 79 when I started here.
So sure, if
We
you- if
also
we keep
didn't
giving
have
money, if we keep
the
giving
road
millions of dollars
structure.
away, we can't afford trucks.
Right.
Yeah, but we didn't have the road structures that you.
Yeah,
you had
Newcastle,
then.
Stone Ridge, all that
Yeah.
didn't come till the middle
Well,
70s.
when you have
late
to move the
70s.
horse from one side of the road to the other.
Right.
Right.
that-
The only developments you had was Cardinal Drive, Tricia Lane, and Emerson
Farms.
Drive, Dutch Farms,
So
That's it.
the 2 towns that you mentioned, that
Nyack,
Nyack and,
the village of. If you go online, there's a whole process
yeah,
to do the consolidation.
yeah. Well,
And
it's
it
not
needs a-
consolidation. I also spoke to the town of, I believe it was Garrison,
Mhm.
town village of Garrison. The village formed a town.
And they
Because
had
they
the
were tired
population.
of paying, and there's no mention of population. There's mention of, we're not paying the town anymore because we're not getting the services that they promised us.
Well, just think about that too, because have you figured out, for all the services that are being rendered currently, what that adds to the village in the sense of expense? How many more people will you need to accomplish what you're trying to do? Have you figured out that budget to know where it lands at the end of the day? You know, just for an example, I know you're tough on the automotive, on the cars for the police department and any other vehicles, but when it was done in-house in the town, you were being charged between, I'll say, 40 and 60 bucks. But if you're going out, I'm sure if you're going to some other places, that they're gonna be 90 plus. So you're actually paying more money. You know, the building department, again, a thorn, but at the end of the day, when the town was in here doing it, it was $40,000 for the entire department to assist here. And currently in your budget, it shows that you're 100 slight plus, 110, 100,000. So, you know, to me that doesn't, living here as a resident, that doesn't make much sense to me. because I feel like there's too many emotions in the way versus looking at the dollars and cents and saying, you know what, I can save maybe $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 that I can do that at. And then take that money and put it to the roads that need to be done.
As far as the building department, building inspector, when we would charge $42,000.
Okay.
The building inspector was making $15,000.
That was her stipend to us from that money.
Okay. When she was not hired back, the village had over 300 open building permits. Okay, now it's not just her, it goes back forever. Okay? It goes back forever because there was never any oversight in this village at all, ever. So 300 open building permits. There's people coming in here every day saying, I want to sell my house, but I did add a room on, and I know it's going to come up in the municipal search.
Right.
There's no record of that room being put onto the house. So that's not even an open building permit. That's just a permit that was never filed.
Well,
Or an illegal action.
does the homeowner have the copy of the permit?
No, because they never went for it.
Well, then shame on the homeowner. If the homeowner doesn't go for a permit to the building department and they build something, they're on the hook whenever they decide to sell.
Yes.
And that,
So let's
and
go
then that
back,
house or whatever it is, depending on the year it was
let's go
built.
back to 300 open buildings.
Okay, so,
Why?
you tell me, you were the mayor. I mean,
No,
at the
no,
end
no.
of the day,
No, I wasn't.
then
Then
you had, all right, so your previous mayorships. At the end of the day, you got, when you become a mayor and you're on that podium, you were the guy who's in charge. You need to figure out if there's 300 left over, if you want to find out why, then figure out how I got to get it cleaned up. That's what needs to be done.
Right.
End of
We're
story.
in the process of doing it.
Okay, that's good.
I'm
But,
glad that
but to
Rob-
say,
I'm glad that Rob brought up that the town is held liable for a lawsuit on 36
East Main.
East Main Street. Was that had to do with the Maysfield Dam? Is that what that was about? Do we know?
No, I don't know.
No, it was a tax.
I think it was a
certiorari.
tax issue.
It was a tax certiorari.
Right.
Okay.
And because the town's tax assessor made the assessment, that's where the liability falls back to the town and doesn't get reflected back to the village.
So.
As I understood it anyways.
So the town pays for attorney services if something happens in the village. Because we pay approximately $500,000 in a lawsuit that we still have over our heads here in the village. So maybe I'll send that bill to Rob. What I'm looking for, what we're looking for, and each and every resident out there should be looking for, okay, is where is the money going? All
He
right?
explained where the money's going,
And
Joe.
when we have fishing license and hunting license and marriage license, and, you know, how many people actually work for the town? Just give me, I think Kathy was first. How many people actually work for the town? And how many people were we actually paying? So if you had that part-time building inspector, were we paying for her pension and her health care? She was part-time. Were we doing that? We don't pay health benefits to part-time workers. All right, nor do we pay health benefits.
Right, and as the supervisor said, whatever details anybody wants, we'll be
Yeah.
happy to get the information.
Exactly.
That's all. If there's a specific question, then I would write all your questions down, what they are, send them over, and we'll check them out. That's why we're here tonight, because
Yeah. and
there was
this
a
is-
need to have a conversation about our budget.
We do need to
And for the audience, our budget process starts in September. We hold workshops, we meet 4, if not 5 Tuesdays out of the month. And we have workshops through September, right up into December or into November when we vote on the budget. They're open, They're posted on the websites. We welcome everyone's participation. We don't, transparency, we're glass all the way. Anything you want to know, we're right there.
Just a minute,
Sorry about
I
that.
think Kathy had something to say first.
First,
She was,
Sure.
had her hand up for a while.
Mr. Kaloi, you had asked both of us the question
Yes.
of, I'm gonna take off my mask.
Thank you.
You had asked both of us the question if we're comfortable with the taxes that we pay. When I became a town ward rep, I emphasized that I would love, but it has to do with being a woman, it's never enough. Because I'm a woman, it could never be enough. I do check in with Chris Martino sometimes, with Brian Zaccaro sometimes, to see if they do need any help with anything that is going on. I have called Larissa, I've called Joe, anything that we can help with, I want to be there. I would love for our police department to work hand in hand together, not because one is better than the other, or not because the village is not good, and not because the town isn't, but because society has become in such a way these days, we need more togetherness than we need to be apart, especially with the police department. As far as the building inspector goes, $42,000 was being paid to the town for use of the whole department. And you had 300 open permits that weren't looked into. As a resident, and I just looked this up the other day, I would not have voted to have the building inspector that we have now in the village, who was let go from Newburgh for giving a C of O for a building that had no foundation. But again, that's just me. We did come here to explain it. I am more than willing and able. Whenever you guys call, I will answer. The residents call, I will answer. I think that we would work better together than pulling apart. But again, I'm just one person with one opinion. If there is something more that you guys want to look into deeper, Rob has invited you guys to town hall. Actually, all of us would invite that. We're more than willing to sit with you guys. I believe that you did sit with the assessor at one point, right after I did. And some of it doesn't make sense to me every day. And that's okay. It's okay to say, wait a minute, what is going on? But after you break it down and you look at it, we can't keep hitting ourselves in the head and kind of be working against each other instead of working together to get more for our tax money. But again, that's just my feeling. I love it when I see a town truck or a town cop or anything to do with us working together makes me very happy as a taxpayer, as a ward member, working with you guys. And there's a lot of things that we might disagree with. And you know what, that's healthy too. But we could come to an understanding to work better together, I think would be the greater good for us and for all of our residents. I hope that I answered.
We're only asking questions.
Well, he asked a specific question, and I hope that I answered his question.
Yeah, well, I guess the very simple part, and I'm sorry if I repeat myself, do you feel comfortable that the village is getting $1.3 million worth of services? And I know Tom said that's the state law, and Mr. Droman said that's the state law, but that's not an answer.
No,
I gave you the
I
answer,
don't
too.
think that
I
Mr.
answered the question.
Droman, I don't think that
So you
Mr.
think that
Droman
you're
said
comfortable we're getting $1.3 million
that it was-
services?
That's what I told you.
Okay.
I said, I'm a resident here, I know what it is, and I'm
Mr.
comfortable with
Droman was
I
more
can-
than willing, while he was here, to explain everything to you.
Well,
And
he
it
did.
wasn't
He
only
gave us a
fishing
little breakdown.
license.
I see it.
Yes, and it wasn't only fishing licenses or anything else. He did ask before he left, is there anything else? And he has invited everybody to come to town hall and we can go over it.
And then Tom, I'm sorry to interrupt you, you said about, can we think about the cost of the breakaway and all that? I guarantee you, we can provide these services for the village residents for less than $1.3 million. I guarantee you. nor would we ever think of separating.
So, all I'm saying is you're guaranteeing it, but you've never done the analysis to prove it. So you want to take that leap off the board, but you don't know where you're going to land. Is it concrete or is it water? Finish the analysis, just like if it was a consolidation. There's a process. There's voting, townwide. Every resident has something to say, right?
I would start with getting residents to get up, get out, and vote. That would be the best place to start.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Good luck with that.
Every one of our neighbors to vote, vote, vote. And remember, the school board election is coming up, just have to throw that plug in. Because that's important, you know what I mean? Our school
26.
impact.
And I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yes, I'm sorry.
My name is Eric Corman, and I just, you asked the ward's members how they felt about the money that they're paying. Well, as a resident, I know there would have been days that I couldn't get to work to feed my family if it wasn't for the town stepping in and plowing roads and taking care of stuff. Not because the village can't handle it, do everything. Listen, everybody needs help sometimes. I have no problem with that 1.3, but let's ask another question while we're all standing here and sitting here. You guys are all up there attacking the town. What is the village budget? And what do I get for the taxes that I pay in the village? I guarantee the village costing the residents more than 1.3 million.
I just want to say, I don't think it's an attack on the town, but I will say that there was a meeting.
Well, when they gave a list of items that they're doing or that they've assisted with, and it keeps getting minimized to dog licenses and fishing licenses by the mayor, that's kind of an attack.
Yes.
I'm sorry, listen, I get he's up there trying to prove a point, but let's be fair. They've come in, they've helped plow our roads. They've done other things for this village.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in teamwork makes the dream work.
And I think Kathy hit it perfect. We could do a lot more together than we'll ever do fighting each other.
I'm a proponent of teamwork makes the dream
Can you
work.
let her finish her sentences each time before you start and then respond back?
Well, I thank you, but let me say this, that there was a meeting a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, where we had a group of residents from a particular development come in and demand answers from us about the taxes that they paid.
And they did go to the town
To the
and
town,
speak
right.
to the assessor.
And I just wish they were here today,
And
so
they
that they could
did
ask
spend the
questions.
time with us to explain everything and the assessed values of the homes and how it affects the taxes in the village. Those residents also did reach out to me and I directed them in the right area, and that was the same time that Mr. Kowal also went in. And myself went in to talk to the assessors to understand it better.
you know, on the other side of that too, in your budget, if it wasn't for those assessments, because incrementally in your budget, you've raised the budget, but those assessments out of Highview kept their assessments and bringing in that extra money leveled off the increase of your budget from year to year, to the point where you say you didn't really raise taxes, but if I have a tax bill that actually did increment, and a couple of times, and so something that maybe you guys could follow up on from one year to the next. It says 5+% increase from maybe 17 to 18 or whatever it was, but it went up. So, and then the other side of the coin too, there was your budget meeting. I think your finalized budget came in at 3.9 million-ish, but the tax bill shows it at 3.4 million. So there's like almost a $400,000 discrepancy between the budget and the tax bill. So I just want to mention that because maybe
Our budget is not $3 million. Our budget is not $3 million. Okay.
the assessed value of what came in that shows on the tax bill, I believe was 3.4, but your budget that you displayed that you passed was 3.9.
You're talking about the real property taxes?
Yeah,
It's
the
not the budget.
assessment.
Okay.
Well, it's what was, you
We
showed
don't
on the
set the
budget.
assessment, the town sets the assessment. for
It's what you
property.
showed up,
While he's looking, can I be a first and last name?
Eric Corman.
Eric?
Eric, you all right, Ken? HORMAN. And I do want to say one other thing. I appreciate you guys asking the town to come here and explain it. That is very, very important, and I appreciate that, you know, because we do have a right to know. You guys as a village board and us as village residents. I think that was a very good move. I want to give you credit where credit's due as well.
Thank you.
So
We're up here
on the-
representing the village of Washingtonville, and it's important that every resident in the village of Washingtonville knows, because of, it's hard making a living right now. And everyone, you know, I get phone calls, I can't pay water bill, I have to put gas in my car, all right? How am I supposed to answer that? Okay, so we're all in the same boat. I don't want you to leave here thinking that we're attacking the town, we're asking questions. And if you feel like I minimized everything down to a license, I apologize for that, but that's not what the intent is.
And I also just want to piggyback on that. This makes it like a lot clearer tonight for me than it was yesterday for me.
No, and I think this is great. You know, again, as a village resident for years, I used the latchkey program. That saved me tremendously. And I'm sure there are a ton of families here that have used it, or the summer camps through this village. I'm a two-income family. My wife worked full-time. I work full-time. I work in New York City. I can't be here to take care of my kids. That camp saved us, and that was a town program. You know, so I think there are a lot of good benefits.
So, Joe, on the 2022-23, on the adopted budget that says January 31st, Fund A1001, real property tax, is 3.967124. But on my tax receipt, it says total levy is 3.562.99. So, don't know how that could be different.
Okay, something I
Yeah,
should, and
throw it out
amend
this
it.
way.
Frank, you had
Has anyone from the village board contacted the controller's office and tried to set up a meeting between the controller and the town and maybe just try to shift monies around and, you know, set the budget differently?
No, we contacted our ward.
Right, but if the controller is setting the law, which the town has to go by, which you guys fall under in some instances, why aren't you guys contacting the controller's office to get everyone together? Number one, to understand where the money's going, and number two, if you guys can make some progress on shifting monies, you know, maybe that can be done, especially if the controller is controlling that.
I think this is a process. I think this is what we need to start looking into, what our options are.
Right, but you know, like Rich is saying though, he guarantees that it can, you know, the village can do better. Like Tom said, you guys haven't analyzed that. You haven't put anything to paper.
This is just an informational meeting.
Right, but he's saying he guarantees it. There's a big difference. Those are pretty strong words.
I have something to add as well. This is from the Office of the Comptroller. It's a list of fiscal stress monitoring system. And Washingtonville is listed on there since 2019, has not filed with the comptroller. I have that information for you. I think that that also affects grant money, and the way that I could try to explain that is when your kids go to college, you have to make sure your taxes are done to file for your FAFSA forms. This is similar to that. So if this isn't handed into the comptroller, it's harder to get grants, and in some cases you will not get grants. And that's going back since 2019.
That's a question
You
for
consider that a
the
loss of
board.
revenue right there?
Well, I'm not sure.
If people ignore their chance to get grant money that would help the village, wouldn't that be considered some kind of negligence on trying to capture monies? As you said, Mr. Bucko, that would help people that need to get extra money for various reasons, at least offset their taxes.
We have 3 grants that are heading our way.
Coming away is not about, we're talking about monies that were not captured back in 2019.
Okay, and so I will look into the stress relief.
Well,
I
okay.
can,
That's fine, you can give it to me, that's great.
The thing that the stress relief gets at, if you don't file it every year, and
It's gone.
there's a gap, right?
Good.
So at the end of the day,
Well,
if you took out a van and you wanted to convert it to a bond, you
Right.
can't do it. Because they can't give you a bond rating because they don't have the financial information to make a judgment call.
and again, as a ward rep,
And
if we could ever, and I know Tom is pretty good with grant stuff, I will stay on top of Tom to help Washingtonville get grants for all these parks, because we all know that I do love kids. Adults, so if that's something that we can help you with, I will be more than willing to drag Mr. DeVinco with me, because he just loves me anyway. And I will come in here and help you to the best that we can to obtain more grants for the village, for our parks, for our beautification, and for whatever else that we can help with.
because the grants that are out there obviously are for town and villages. And if we could both take advantage of the grants, it's all the better. We can't use them, usually you can't commingle them, but at the end of the day, if you need it, if we see something, we tell you, if you see something, you tell us, because those grants fly in the door from everywhere, from DEP, New York State, any organization, environmental companies, it's out there, but it's a task. But if you get lucky and get it, and you don't have to pay for it in advance before you get the grant money, then that's a win-win.
We were, as far as grants go, we received a $3 million grant for our wastewater treatment. We have $250,000 grant coming for a sweeper. We have $135,000 grant coming for Burnout Park. We have $125,000 grant coming for inclusive playground.
For what?
Inclusive playground.
Oh,
We have a $100,000 grant coming for Emerson Drive. Okay, so these are old grants.
So about downtown.
The downtown, you're working on that. So when you say that the grants take a very long time to come through. So the time that they take the picture with the big check, okay, that everybody is photo shooting, it's old. Okay, the dollar's not worth the dollar right now. We had a $250,000 grant promised by Senator Larkin. When Senator Larkin passed away, so did the grant. Okay, so if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to come in here. I'm here 6 days a week. But as we move on, somebody, Laura.
So maybe just for